Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Rajagacharya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, and welcome everyone for Sri Caitanya Caritamrita with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Thursday, January 23rd in New York, and tonight we're picking up with Adi Leela, chapter 12, text number 10. And a special note of welcome to everyone joining us for the first time, of which I see there are a few. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Acharyera mataye se matasar. Tanra agya longichale se ta asar. The order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. Anyone who disobeys the order of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. Purport. Here is the opinion of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Persons who strictly follow the orders of the spiritual master are useful in executing the will of the Supreme, whereas persons who deviate from the strict order of the spiritual master are useless. Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As I read the verse which says that the order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life, it occurred to me that the soul is the active principle in the body. Similarly, so one who accepts the order of the spiritual master and carries it out actually has life, otherwise not. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, would you care to say anything at this stage?
Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Meditam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadhati Shakala. The very significant section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Of course, we know from the 10 offenses, this is one of the offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord, to minimize the instructions of the spiritual master, Guru Avagya, not to disobey the spiritual master's instructions, to trivialize or overstep the spiritual master's instructions. That makes one useless, even if it's done well, on an institutional level. If we introduce in our ecclesiastical capacity anything which is against the orders of the spiritual master, that will be wrong. And that's what we saw, Srila Prabhupada tells us, in the Gaudiya Math, that the institutional leaders introduced something which was against the orders of the spiritual master, and they became useless. So we have to be very careful, therefore. Those who are entrusted with institutional leadership have great burden placed on their heads, a great responsibility to be exceedingly faithful to the instructions of the spiritual master. In the previous purport, one cannot infiltrate materially concocted ideas into spiritual advancement. That is a deviation. There's no scope for adjusting spiritual advancement to material ideas. that comes into the realm of what I've called creative managerial theology, where we look at the welfare of the spiritual master's institution, and we see problems of one sort or another, and we make some managerial adjustment, which at the expense of the spiritual principles that the spiritual master taught. That will be problematic. To be specific, if we have a problem with gurus falling down or gurus not acting properly, one option is to say, well, the guru is not very important anyway. The institution is what counts. The orders of the institution's ecclesiastical hierarchy is what matters. And the spiritual master, he plays an important role, but we don't want to go overboard here and just dedicate ourselves to the orders of the spiritual master. That would be fanaticism. That's not what Prabhupada taught. We have to have some, let's play this down. And that can solve your problem. Now you have stability because you don't have these wild card spiritual masters who can mess up your institutional structure. So good, everything's nice and stable, but we've done it at the expense of the teachings of the founder Acharya. It's all over the books that one has to make the instructions of the spiritual master one's life and soul. That to have an opinion different from the spiritual master makes one useless. So many different places we have that one must, what Acharya Mam Vijanayan, Naidaman Yetakarhichit, one has to have, see the spiritual masters non-different from Krishna. Yasya Deve Parabhaktir Yata Deve Tataguru, as much faith as we should have in Krishna, that's how much faith we should have in our bona fide spiritual master. This is all just everywhere. Yasya Prasadad Bhagavad Prasadam, without the mercy of the spiritual master, we're nowhere. And with the mercy of the spiritual master, then we get Krishna's mercy. This is just what's the word? Signature feature of the DNA of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, that the spiritual master, words of the spiritual master should be one's life and soul. So if we start to monkey with that, if we start to play with that, if we start to trivialize that, if we start to minimize that or alter that, then we may achieve commendable institutional goals, but we do so at the expense of the theology, at the expense of the teachings that the institution was founded to propagate. So that becomes exceedingly problematic. And it's especially problematic if we hide it. If we come out and say, well, we've got this problem and here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to basically, we know what the teachings say about the spiritual master, but we're going to change it because it causes us X, Y, Z spiritual problems, managerial problems. Then at least it's up front. But we hide it. We say that no, Prabhupada actually taught a Ritvik system, or which anyway, we don't have to talk about that. Say no, Prabhupada created a Ritvik system, so we all have to follow the Ritvik system, or we say that Prabhupada, what would be that we have to keep Prabhupada in the center, and to keep Prabhupada in the center, we have to knock down these other people, otherwise somehow or other they'll occupy the center. So we should have them, but they shouldn't be too big. They should be, bite size. whatever. So then we get, but we don't want to say that. So we say something like Prabhupada in the center. We say something like, well, I don't want to say too many things, but we have different kinds of slogans that we can invoke without coming, without fessing up and saying, here's our problem and here's what we're going to do about it and here's why. Instead, we pretend that we're not really changing the theology when in fact we are. So that's what I call crypto-Ritvic philosophy. It's non-different from the original Ritvic philosophy, but we keep it sort of hidden. Or it is different because the strict Ritvic philosophy says no one else can be Guru but Prabhupada. And crypto-Ritvic comes at it from a different angle of vision to achieve more or less the same managerial goals. So something as you know, like we have voidism. So to counteract voidism, we start a new philosophy, impersonalism, which is really just voidism under another name and with a few new wrinkles in it, but it gets you to the same place. There's no personality of Godhead. So therefore it's criticized as crypto-Buddhism. Shankara is criticized as a crypto-Buddhist. So we can wind up being crypto-Ritvics. And it appears to me that if we do that, we're not following. And I appreciate all of the tremendous institutional problems that we face. And I respect those who are entrusted with keeping the institution afloat and functioning well. But it's hard to sympathize with clandestine adjustments to the philosophy for the sake of serving ecclesiastical goals. How's that for a benign comment on this purport?
Thank you very much. Do you have a on-site audience there? Does anyone there have any questions, comments?
I don't really have a non-site audience here. Maybe online there might be someone.
Oh, I saw you looking and I thought maybe you were looking at individual.
Well, I had Jagannath Sutta, my assistant, was here, but he just walked out to do something.
Okay, Jai.
Sort of looking.
Jai. Bhakta Arjun Prabhu says, Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavats pranams to the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. It's been a while. Good to see you, Bhakta Arjun Prabhu. And Tulsi Priya says, it seems as though, in the case of ISKCON, the spiritual master doesn't exist independently of the institution. His authority is contingent upon his membership and standing in the institution. If we, the followers, want to be part of the institution, the spiritual master must toe the institutional line. There are those who have gone their own way, but in the minds of many, ISKCON is identified with Srila Prabhupada, so it is seen as rejecting Prabhupada to go away.
Well, these get into complex sorts of arguments. Prabhupada did found the institution and identified himself with the institution. So just as we shouldn't trivialize the spiritual master or trivialize the founder Acharya, we shouldn't trivialize his institution either. Well, it's just an institution. That's doesn't really do justice to all the effort that Prabhupada put into establishing and guiding the institution. So the institution certainly has importance, and those who want to, the institution has great importance, and arguably having a healthy institution confers so many benefits in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement and nourishing people's spiritual lives. Otherwise, why would Prabhupada have cared? He could have just chanted Hare Krishna and not founded an institution. Even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, with his famous Putana essay, founded an institution, and built up, supported and built up the institution. So we don't want to trivialize institutions either. That said, and the spiritual master doesn't exist independently of the institution in the case of ISKCON. Well, yes, ISKCON can say that the spiritual master doesn't exist independently of the institution. That sort of puts you on risky theological grounds. You get something called an ISKCON guru, and his spiritual authority is somehow contingent upon the government of ISKCON. If he leaves ISKCON, is he still an ISKCON guru, even though is he still a guru, even though he's not an ISKCON guru? Is he still a bona fide spiritual master? Or is it our claim that if you're not in ISKCON, you can't be a bona fide spiritual master? All the Gaudiya Math gurus must be illegitimate, and anyone who's not in ISKCON is illegitimate. He can't be a bona fide spiritual master. Or what? Are we saying that being a spiritual master of any sort is dependent on being an ISKCON guru? Only ISKCON gurus are bona fide? Or are we saying that in ISKCON only ISKCON gurus are bona fide? We know in practice that there, is ISKCON only for those who are initiated by ISKCON gurus? We know that there are people initiated by non-ISKCON gurus who are, members in good standing and doing service in important ISKCON temples. So are we going to revise that, or do we say, oh no, that's not really, we're just somehow or other engaging them, even though their gurus are somehow or other inferior? Is that our position? And then you get to this question also of authorized ISKCON gurus. To be a bona fide guru in ISKCON, you have to be an authorized ISKCON guru, which means that basically you're voted upon in some fashion by, or some sort of approval mechanism is there from the ISKCON apparatus. That notion has been questioned lately, especially by Krishna Dharma Prabhu and Jayadvaita Prabhu. I think there's been an article in ISKCON Communications Journal about that. Is that something that Prabhupada wanted us to do? Is it something that has even precedential, that has precedent? Is it wise? Is it really helpful? Does it serve the purposes for which it exists? Do we find that having only authorized ISKCON gurus saves us from having gurus who go off the rails and cause disappointment and so on? Has it worked, in other words? Would we be better off? Would we have better growth if we just allowed things to grow in the old traditional way? I meet a Vaishnava, and if I consider him, if I place my trust on him, I accept him as my guru, and if he trusts me, he accepts me as a disciple. That's the traditional method. There's nothing in Shastra about institutional approval. But if we go back to that old method, are we worse off than the method we have? And if we go back to that old method, then seems that the idea of approved ISKCON guru goes out the window. And guru in ISKCON, is that what it's called? Spiritual master doesn't exist independently of the institution. Well, then it would seem that he does. If we accept as local people, then it's not an institutional question. It's a question of the disciple, the guru, and Krishna, without institutional intervention. And there's the famous quote from Jiva Goswami about that, which maybe Praveen can find for me, about ecclesiastical conventions. It's in Adi Lila, chapter 7. Essentially, Jiva Goswami says that we shouldn't be governed by in the matter of accepting a bona fide spiritual master, we shouldn't be governed by social or ecclesiastical conventions. Ecclesiastical means having to do with a church or spiritual institution. So all these questions arise about his authority is contingent upon his membership and standing in the institution. I don't know that on what grounds could we make that a principle, because the authority of the guru is not ultimately an institutional authority. It's the authority granted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the disciplic succession. So at what point does an institution have the right or authority to intervene and say, no, this relationship isn't bona fide, or this relationship can't exist, or we can't recognize this relationship because we weren't involved in proving it, or it didn't take place in a manner we agree with. Can we say they have the authority to do that? Or, as some have argued, it's just not your business. It's between the disciple and the spiritual master. We don't regulate marriage. We don't say that, if you weren't married by a bona fide ISKCON priest, your marriage doesn't exist. It's really none of your business. It's between the husband and the wife. And if it goes sour, that's their problem. It's not the problem of the institution. And if it works well, it's not your credit. So all of these questions may arise. Sri Jiva Goswami advises, Adi Lila, that one not accept a spiritual master in terms of hereditary or customary social and ecclesiastical conventions. One should simply try to find a genuinely qualified spiritual master for actual advancement in spiritual understanding. That's a very definite statement. It's so definite that I'll read it again. Sri Jiva Goswami advises that one not accept a spiritual master in terms of hereditary or customary social and ecclesiastical conventions. Ecclesiastical has to do with a church or any spiritual institution. In legal cases and in the dictionary, we find examples that Buddhist and other such churches are ecclesiastical authorities. So one should not accept a spiritual master in terms of customary ecclesiastical conventions. That's very clear. That's just exceedingly clear. And the authority is Sri Jiva Goswami, as quoted by Srila Prabhupada. So if we want to do something else, we have to find equally powerful justification for it, which I would be very interested to see. If we have some other idea, that's fine. It's, the world is full of ideas and we should be open-minded, but then put up, show us the authority that says, no, you should go by ecclesiastical conventions for XYZ reasons, presumably to keep Prabhupada in the center, or to keep institutional stability, or to protect devotees from being victimized, or whatever reason you want to give, and then be upfront about it and saying, we are instituting an ecclesiastical convention, we are aware of Jiva Goswami's statement, and we're doing it anyway. And then let the candidates choose whether they want to respect that institutional convention or say the heck with it. There's more important things to me that are more important than institutional conventions or decision making. And whether his authority is contingent. We understand that his institutional authority is contingent upon his membership, and his allegiance to the government of the society. Is his spiritual authority contingent? Is his spiritual authority, his authority as a bona fide representative of Krishna and his spiritual master, is that contingent upon ecclesiastical authority? that would be a very interesting question to openly address. There are those who've gone their own way, but in the minds of many ISKCON devotees, yeah, so it's sort of treason if you accept a spiritual master outside of ISKCON. That's also a very interesting notion, which I would suspect is not going to survive, and is already sort of politely overlooked in instances where we have very valuable ISKCON devotees who are not initiated within ISKCON and who serve loyally in ISKCON. So I think those notions have problems associated with them, and I'd be slow to stand up for them. And of course, we should be open to hearing from those who have other views, and especially those who have other views that they can back with authoritative statements from Prabhupada's books or from Shastras.
Tulsi Priya has a follow-up question.
I should add one more thing, that I would be very unhappy to see spiritual initiation weaponized, to see the institution weaponize the privilege of being initiated, to say if you associate with these people, or if you do this or you do that, then we won't let you be initiated. We won't let our bona fide ISKCON gurus initiate you. You should go without initiation. You should starve so that we can bring you into line with our institutional principles. To weaponize initiation that way, I think it is highly problematic and questionable. Certainly the institution should see that its component parts comport themselves according to the institutional standards, which should be high standards and should be strict and should be carefully thought about and designed for serving Prabhupada's mission. But to weaponize, to use initiation or to withhold initiation from people as a coercive measure in institutional disagreements, I think is highly, what should we say, problematic, certainly, highly questionable. It invites, it invites the question of whether that's the spiritually proper thing to do. We won't let you get married. We won't let you get initiated. We won't let you take darshan of the deity. We won't let you do this or do that unless you follow our. We had that in one temple in the east coast of North America that comes to mind, where the temple president basically said, if you don't support the leadership of this temple, we will not recommend you for initiation, and you will therefore not be initiated. You will, basically weaponized initiation as an institutional means of forcing people to do as the leadership wanted. I didn't think at the time that was proper, and I don't think it's proper today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Tulsi Priya, follow-up question?
Gosh, I don't know if I have time to ask the question properly.
Yeah, it's only half an hour left.
Yeah, I've just often thought that, what is the point of the institution? What I mean, and I don't mean that like it's useless or it doesn't have a point. I mean, what is the actual point of the institution? My understanding is it's to provide structure, organization, management of an active preaching movement. It's not just a bunch of people independently sitting around being Krishna conscious. There's a preaching movement going on. But I was also thinking, like Maharaj was saying, we have standards And I was thinking, sometimes in the past, when I've seen, watching television, you see commercials for products and they say this product is Good Housekeeping approved, meaning it's gone through some testing in a laboratory and they determine it's effective and everything else. And I was thinking, it made me think that that ISKCON as an institution is sort of like Good Housekeeping. Prabhupada set up standards, specific standards for the type of mission that he was, establishing. And we, like, for instance, some other gurus don't make their disciples chant 16 rounds. And Prabhupada said that's the minimum. And so I'm thinking, well, if we have it very clearly codified, what our standards are, that these are the standards. And this is, if you want to be a member of ISKCON, you follow these standards. And if you don't want to be a member of ISKCON, you can get initiated by somebody else. I'm not sure if that's the right way to think about it, but I'm just wondering, what is the point of the institution if it's not to, maintain the standards that Prabhupada set up?
Yeah, and of course, as you said, I don't know if there's time for your question, as you indicated. But certainly the institution exists to serve Prabhupada's desires, to serve the integrity of the teachings and how the teachings are applied. So it's not a small thing. In the same northeastern region that we were talking about, it's only because of the way that Prabhupada set up the institution that we were able to prevent an unwanted sale of a multi-million-dollar property belonging to the deities. So, the importance of the institution was palpably demonstrated in that instance, and the importance of respecting and honoring the authority, which even the civil courts did. They recognized that this is a hierarchical religious institution, and the GBC is the final authority for that institution. So, compelled by Prabhupada's instructions for the institution, the court were seeing compelling evidence for that. The court upheld, even the appellate court upheld that principle. So certainly the governing body, and Prabhupada wanted the members of the governing body to be like gurus for the whole institution. They should be spiritual leaders of great strength and merit, and as we see in so many instances that they are. So so these things are there. The argument given by Krishna Dharma Prabhu, among others, is that in regard to whom we should accept as or from whom we should seek initiation, the argument is train people to see. Don't resort to coercive measures or votes of boards as to who can and who can't. Train people. Give your courses, give your seminars, publish your books, teach people, let people advise people to seek guidance from experienced devotees whom they trust, so that they'll get good advice, just as we would with marriage. We'd say, have you spoken to your dad about this? Have you spoken to your close friends? Are you sure this is a good idea? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? Or do all the necessary boxes get ticked here? Wise people generally don't just go off and get married on the spur of the moment, especially in Vedic culture. There's so many people whose wisdom is required. And there we would say, yes, there is social convention. If your parents don't approve, you're not getting married, period. So we don't want to take these things too far in analogies. But the point is that if you really want people to make the right decision, then don't say, yes, this is the right decision because we've given our good housekeeping seal of approval to this person, and then have egg on our face later when the seal wears off. Train people. It's your decision. We're not making this decision for you. It's such an important decision, and only you can make it. And here's our advice about how to make it. We have advice from Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, all the Goswamis, from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from Srila Prabhupada. We have so much advice about what the qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master are. We have local leaders who presumably know the person that you're interested in, who can guide you, who can advise you, who have your welfare at heart, who are not, what should we say, who don't have institutional concerns that might take precedence over their interest in your own personal welfare. So take guidance from the people that you trust. Think carefully, measure twice and cut once, and pray to Krishna, and we wish you well, rather than saying, okay, here's our list of 20 or 30 or 100 bona fide, certified, good housekeeping, seal of approval, ISKCON gurus. And I'm sure arguments can be given for other points of view, but those are some words on the topic.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
I want to get to Morai Gupta Prabhu has a question here. Hare Krishna Maharaj, if the leaders deviate and the general devotees are not sharp enough to see it, but have a genuine desire to serve Krishna and Prabhupada, what is their destination? Is it all useless? That's the first question. Second question, since Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati instructed his disciples to form a GBC, will the institution be, quote, useful if it doesn't?
Well, taking the second question first, we have the verse at hand where it says, if you disregard the orders of the spiritual master, you become useless. Prabhupada certainly said enough times that there should be a governing body commission as the ultimate authority for the entire International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So repudiating that principle would make one useless, barring some sort of severe circumstances that don't exist at the present time and haven't existed so far. So in short, yes, he wanted a GBC. If you stand with him, then you want a GBC. Not that you don't like having a GBC or having a GBC cramps your style this way or the other way. He did want a GBC. And if we don't want to be useless, we should want a GBC. But the first question was a little, I think I ran into trouble with pronouns there. You want to read it again?
Yes. If the leaders deviate
Hmm.
and general devotees are not sharp enough to see it, but have a genuine desire to serve Krishna and Prabhupada, what is their destination? Is it all useless?
No. I was in one temple where the leader was off course, very much so. And many devotees saw it. I didn't. I missed it. And they even brought it to Prabhupada's attention that Jayadvaita's, seems to be off course here. And Prabhupada wrote them back and said, basically leave him alone. Let him do his service. So if in good faith we serve Krishna, then whatever is going on doesn't have to be the deciding factor in whether we're making spiritual progress. I remember reading around the time when Prabhupada was in Los Angeles, and there were some feelings that he considered very disrespectful on the part of some of his leading disciples, and he called in several of the GBC members to consult them about what to do, and he himself eventually went to Japan. At that time, I remember reading, I think, or some reliable source, it was reported in reliable sources, that then Prabhupada, while these discussions were going on in Prabhupada's room, a temple kirtan party passed by, and Prabhupada said, in effect, don't involve them in these things. They are innocent. They're, let them be innocent. It's not their business to be dragged into the political things. So in general, we do our service, and the leadership may be right on target, the leadership may be a little off target, the leadership may be, we're not quite sure, or there may not even be leadership, practically speaking. But we've got our marching orders: chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, read Prabhupada's books, spread Krishna consciousness. So as long as we're following the orders of Srila Prabhupada, the orders of the spiritual master, then whatever happens in the management or the government of our country, or the weather going crazy and global warming or freezing or whatever, we're well situated under any circumstances. Yasmin stato nadukena guruna pi vichalyate. We're well situated regardless. So we should have that confidence. Not that if there's some problem in the institution, my whole life is falling apart, and how can I chant Hare Krishna? No, we'll carry on. And Prabhupada himself was the example. The institution fell apart. The whole institution established by a spiritual master wound up in squabbles in the Calcutta High Court. But Prabhupada continued to follow the orders of his spiritual master, regardless of what was happening. Certainly it was regrettable, certainly it was disturbing, but Prabhupada continued to serve the instructions of his spiritual master and serve the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we should do that. And we should pray to Krishna that the institution will stay on course, will continue to be responsibly managed, will continue to provide good spiritual leadership and inspiration for the devotees and for the Krishna consciousness movement. May Krishna grant wisdom and strength to the leaders of the institution in that way. But whatever comes, we'll continue to serve.
Thank you, Maharaj. And Murai Gupta Prabhu says, thank you, Maharaj. Your answers are so helpful. Underscoring what you said, Supriya says, I read something recently where Prabhupada said that we should follow the leaders, and if they are wrong, Krishna will correct them. I need to find the exact quote. And prior to that, she has a comment question here. Regarding weaponization, she says, these weaponizations, at least in the past, seem to have been defensive maneuvers, if not territorial, because we have seen that outside influences have infiltrated and threatened the preaching movement. Prabhupada was protective of his followers, and when they want, quote, off the reservation, went off the reservation and brought back contrary ideas into ISKCON from other teachers, he wasn't happy about it.
Yes, that's the point. The teachings should be kept as they are. And certainly the institution should have the authority to the leadership should have the authority to say this idea is right, that idea is not right, this represents where we stand, this deviates from where we stand. They should have that authority. And now it's up to you. You want to accept someone who's whom the institution regards as being off course. Good luck to you, but don't say we never told you. Don't say we never told you. But then it's not a matter of our giving approval or not approval. I could envision cases where they'd issue a warning. This person is, he's totally acting against the principles of our institution. Again, you can accept him as your guru or not, but if you want to know, he's deviating from all of our principles. He's, dancing with the gopis and all this kind of rubbish. So we condemn this, but it's not that we suspend his right to be guru or not to be guru, because we don't need to do that. That would be the proposal. That not that we somehow or other approve, and then we pull the plug. No, he's not bona fide anymore, and then we put the plug back in and say, well, now 15 years later, he's bona fide again. But we let you know that if people are acting in such and such way, as perhaps such and such person is, and we can't, we advise you, this is wrong. Now you do as you like. You take seats to talk with.
Pelsi also says, I agree about education, but it seems the emphasis on money and manpower for projects than having educated members. Even with education, or especially with education, some devotees think they know better and spread ideas that are not aligned with Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know money, men, this, that, but some people are exactly on target. Some people are far away from the target. Some people are mostly on target. Some people are mostly off target. You get all of those things taking place, and some who are not exactly on target may be well regarded and approved, and some who are regarded as not so well regarded may or some who are not approved may be right on target. So again, it's in one sense, two different questions. Is someone a bona fide Vaishnava? Is he representing the disciplic succession? Is he Shrotriya Brahmanishta, and so on? That's one set of questions. And then another set of questions is whether he's conforming to the cooperating with the management of the institution. And both of them are important. It's not that we don't care whether, whether someone respects our institutional principles or not. They matter, just like in a school. You may be a bona fide teacher, but if you're not in conformity with the principles of our school, go teach elsewhere. We don't have space for you. So as an institution, we can do that. We can do that. But I don't think we can claim that, you're not connected with Krishna unless we say you are. And your guru is not connected with Krishna unless we say that he is. Those are perhaps overreaching our area of knowledge and authority.
Thank you, Maharaj. We're getting close to the end of our time. We have a question from Saraswati, and then it's time for Kirtan. She says, Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. Devotees, including Srila Prabhupada disciples who associate with devotees from other Gaudiya branches, are branded traitors, frowned upon, and even ostracized, even if they are following all the regs. Isn't that wrong too?
I would say it's hasty. There are legitimate concerns about who we associate with and what we do. There may be people who really don't have who stay in the institution or come to the institution, but have, what's the word? hostile intentions toward the institution, or who only visit the institution for their own non-congenial purposes. So there may be things like that, but the idea that but we have to admit that there may be very advanced Vaishnavas who are not part of our institution, and whose association or the institution might want to appreciate and benefit from in appropriate ways. And in the past, this has been problematic, but we might hope that in the future there'll be more mature ways of dealing with these things, whatever one's point of view.
It is time for kirtan, but I thought this is a good opportunity to bring up a point that I think of often. Very well-known Christian preacher Andy Stanley makes a point when addressing his congregation that if you count yourself as a Jesus follower, then what I'm saying you need to take seriously. But if you don't, then you don't. And I feel that for those of us raised in ISKCON, being a Prabhupada follower is the mark of someone that we also want to follow if we have affection and respect for Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's message, Prabhupada's teachings. So that seems to be, anyway, for me, the good housekeeping seal of approval.
Yeah, and I think that's not just carried a couple minutes further. It's not an obligation that to be a Gaudiya Vaishnava, you have to be a Prabhupada follower. There are other institutions, and they follow their gurus, and they don't have to follow Prabhupada. They can follow their own gurus and their own institutional leaders. But what sets our institution apart is that we are the institution dedicated to following Srila Prabhupada. There's so many other institutions. This one is dedicated to following Srila Prabhupada. Those who value Srila Prabhupada's instructions and those who appreciate all that he did in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement and even in establishing ISKCON and guiding ISKCON, such people may strongly desire to be in ISKCON and not to be anywhere else. So there, as Mr. Stanley said, if you're a Jesus follower, you'll respect that. If you're not, then you don't have to. So if you appreciate Prabhupada to this extent, to the extent that you want to be in his institution, then we are his institution. Come on, and you're welcome. And if you feel if that doesn't press your buttons, if you don't feel that, Krishna came to you in some other way, not directly through Srila Prabhupada, and your allegiance where it lies elsewhere, we respect that. And we shouldn't have a problem with that. We don't claim that ISKCON is the only way, or that Prabhupada is the only guru. If Krishna came to you in some other way, fine. But if Krishna came to you in this way, through Prabhupada, through his books, through his disciples, through his teachings, through his worldwide spreading of Krishna consciousness, then you might want to join this institution. Or you might want to serve you might want to nonetheless join forces with this institution, or help this institution, or be a part of this institution, while keeping your respect for your own guru and everything that you received. So there may be room for accommodating many people on those grounds, while at the same time preserving the integrity of Prabhupada's institution and its Prabhupada's very specific instructions on Krishna consciousness and the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada said this is the challenge that we face, that our leaders face, how to have unity and diversity. So over the next centuries, it will be interesting to see those who survive or who come in the future. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kendra.
So we need some kirtan. Do you have an on-site assembly or no?
Sutta says his voice is shot.
All right then. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, can you lead us in a short kirtan? Thank you for everything, Maharaj.
Yes, Sekendra Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Satashri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mayi Ki Jai, Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai,
Veta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai,
Go Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Haribo.